going to be exploring first why performance management has such a narrow focus on frameworks and toolkits. What is the consequence of that? And what do we do about it?
So I think that what we see is that, and especially I'm often asked to go in and help organisations, and my team are to write a competency framework or to redesign the performance and reward system or help them develop a new form, even something as simple as that. And we see many frameworks and structures being designed and carefully thought about. And OD teams spend a year researching what's the right framework for them to have in the organisation, thinking about how they can make it most useful to their existing, to all the people in their organisation, and then they throw it over the wall at the organisation, provide the training initially, but then they start working on the next framework because they've done all the work, they've established it really strongly, and suddenly other people and the managers are meant to take it on. And what happens is the managers get their one-off training, and then nothing further happens. And so they often struggle to use that framework to get the result they want. Belinda, I'm sure you see some of that. What's your perspective on some of these frameworks that are always coming out?
So we do a lot of work around organizational values, which are very often now translated into behaviors and competencies and various other things. They show up in different ways and they're sometimes called different things. But what we know is the vast majority of organizations have something like this, some sort of system of values. And these will either be designed to reflect the culture or sometimes to set an aspirational culture to create a movement towards something new. What happens is these are then reduced, if you like, down to an assessment. And that's where the action stops. So you find out how well you aren't delivering or living these values, delivering these behaviors, whatever it may be. But there's nothing happens to bridge the gap between, oh, now we found something out. So this is how we're going to go on that journey. This is how we're going to shift the dial. So that's the first problem. I think that there's too much overemphasis put on the assessment itself with not enough put around looking at all the levers that you need to actually make the change that you're seeking. And the consequence of that is not just wasted time and effort, and sometimes this happens in multiple cycles. We keep creating the same things over and over again and hoping we get a different outcome. But so you waste time and effort, but also you create a lot of disengagement and cynicism, which is never going to help in anything that you're trying to achieve in terms of some sort of cultural shift.
I think that's so true. And it's really helpful if people in HR and OD can remember that the managers have not been living with this framework for as long as you have, but also to think about what this framework is meant to be for an outcome. So I quite often in an organization will then meet a relatively new manager who say, when I was in this organization, we had a great framework and it worked brilliantly. And when you dig into that a little bit, they often can't remember what the framework actually was. They've got no idea what was in it. They might remember the picture that it looked like. But what was happening was that the leaders in that organization were using that framework to have the conversations that they needed to have, to set the direction that they needed to set, to ensure that people were skilled and focused on the things that really matter. And again, those of you who are my clients who are sitting on this call will know that I am constantly talking about what are the things that really matter and how do we focus on those and what's the leader's role in doing that. So I think that probably moves us on a little bit.
Beautifully tees up our second question.